So like to call the meeting to order, 6:01. And if Jessica, if you would do roll call, please, I would appreciate that.
Will do. I do want to mention Brittany de Alicante had previously conveyed she was unable to come this evening. So we'll go with Barry Lind.
Here.
Thank you. Michael Bean.
Here.
Terry Dillon.
Here.
Thank you. Jen Foley.
Here.
Eric Adams.
Here.
Hello. And Joe Piscinary. And all right. Roll call complete at this time.
Perfect. Thank you. I want to begin with the approval of the minutes. If you've had a chance to look through them, is there any corrections or adjustments that need to be made, Terry?
Yeah, I have two of them. And
Okay.
one of them is just grammar, and I'm not sure how badly we want to do grammar, but down on the first page, the last sentence, training is the minimum requirement.
Instead of the.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
just insert the word is. So,
Yeah.
And then on page 3, and this is, maybe I'm just not understanding this sentence, and maybe it's perfect, but it's under the first bullet under Brittany, and it's down where the dogs are used for tracking, building searches, and allocating tools, and involvement in force is secondary. I'm not quite sure that that's a good sentence.
Oh, Terry.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm minored in
I'm
English.
sorry. Got it. So, no,
Minored
definitely.
in English, so I've got to.
I have Representative Phil Barnhart's been on my board for 35 years. And he starts out by correcting every misspelling in the minutes and every grammatical error. I am really good at that stuff now.
You should maybe not send me the minutes until after the meeting, and then I won't pick them apart.
I think
No, I appreciate you reading through them. I do. Thank you.
Those were the only two corrections I saw.
I propose that I remove the word a, put a period after tools, and take out the and just involvement in force is a secondary use, I believe, is what it's intended to be.
Yeah, thank you.
Nope, thanks for bringing it to my attention.
Very good. So then, any other corrections or comments?
And I would make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Second,
Do I have a second?
second.
Michael, thank you.
They're very good, Jessica. Did you write?
Yes,
They're just excellent.
you did an excellent job.
All those in favor, just raise a hand would be perfect. And that's unanimous with our current committee. So, all right. Next, we want to move to business from the audience. I've got a little scripted course that I want to share, and then we'll go from there and see if we have folks that would like to share tonight. As a reminder, the meeting is being recorded. The committee will listen to your comments, but will not respond to public comment until the committee response portion of the meeting agenda. Meeting minutes will be taken by staff and forwarded to City Council and City Manager. Members of the public can always send written testimony to the committee or City Council. As we begin the meeting tonight, I'd like to ask members of the audience to please keep yourselves on mute until you're called to provide public testimony. Public testimony will allow speakers 2 minutes each for a total of 20 minutes. If you're joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer and wish to speak either of those times, please use the raise hand feature to make your request. You will be called on when it's your turn to speak. Please identify your name, Springfield ward number, and the subject you'd like to speak about. For people calling in by phone only, you are in listen mode only and cannot be called upon. So with that, is there any business from the audience that they would like to share with the community tonight?
Well, I just activated the ability to raise hands, but there's no one indicating as much and one attendee. So I feel like we can likely proceed.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Then we will move past the response from the committee and move right into business from the Springfield Police Department. Chief.
Good evening, everybody. It's good to see everybody again. I've got a few updates here, a couple things that are basically kudos for some of the great work that's been going on here at the PD. You may have seen this in the media. On November 4th, there was an armed individual that entered the U of O, the night law school, I think it was, in the middle of the night. He pulled a firearm. He was seen on the cameras armed with a firearm inside. And according to the police chief at U of O that reviewed the video, he surmises that this person was essentially pulling the firearm and getting in a position to either ambush police or fire that showed up when they came into the building in the middle. It was a very serious incident. Well, U of O police called additional resources to come help. Springfield showed up in force with a sergeant and I think 5 officers. And the sergeant and 5 officers, along with some help from some deputy sheriffs from the county, proceeded to clear that entire building. And what was a very dangerous situation. And the chief at U of O recognized each of those officers with the Meritorious Service Award and award ceremony the following week. They did an outstanding job. And while that person had left the law school, he had ended up in a dorm, I think, right next door and was holding 2 people in a room at gunpoint for some time until he eventually was taken into custody, fortunately, without using any force. But it could have been a very bad situation that ended about as well as it possibly could, thanks to the help of a lot of the cops here at SPD. So I just wanted to recognize them. And then the following, well, that was on the 4th. So on the 18th, they had the award ceremony to recognize SPD folks. And then actually on the 19th, there was another award ceremony for the Oregon Police Officer Association. It's a great big yearly banquet where they recognize officers for good work all around the state. And there was a bunch of SPD officers recognized for their involvement in that case where it was the quadruple homicide and the abduction that occurred back in June, where a subject was alleged to have killed his dad and he ran over a 70-year-old married couple and later shot and killed another woman and eventually ended up here in Springfield where he kidnapped the woman at gunpoint and forced her to drive, 2,000 miles over 33 hours. And this woman, over the course of that period of time, convinced him to not kill her, not kill anybody else, not kill himself, and actually turn himself in at a police station, which he did thanks to, it's amazing what she did in the circumstances she operated under. But we had a number of Springfield officers that were involved in that case and they recognized the Oregon Police Officer Association awards. And in fact, on the 20th of this month, that woman is being recognized with the Oregon Police Officer Association Distinguished Citizen of the Year Award. And so she's going to be presented that by the FBI, and we're going to be present at that ceremony right here in town on the 20th. We've got the Springfield Christmas Parade this weekend. Starts at 1 o'clock. Super excited about that. I've never participated in that before, but from what I gather, it's a really big deal around here. The police are going to play a big role in it. We're going to be, ensuring a safe event for everybody, but we're also playing a big role as part of the parade as well. So I'm super excited to see how that all plays out.
Excellent.
So those are the updates. Now I want to dive into, I know we provided everybody a draft copy of our response to the 33 recommendations that related from the settlement with the estate of Stacey Kenny. So everybody's had that and had a chance to review it. I'm not going to go through all of those recommendations, but I figured I would just touch on a few of them and then open it up at the end if you have any follow-up questions, if that's okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So there was 33 recommendations for changes to policy or practices in our protocols, and the majority of those were for SPD specifically, while a small handful of them were specifically related to the work of IDFIT, or the Interagency Deadly Force Investigation Team, which is led by the district attorney. A lot of the recommendations are recognized as best practices, and we've taken very substantial steps towards implementation and completion of each of them. And I'm glad to answer any questions you might have after your review, as well as our response to each of them. And they span a wide range of topics, from crime scene management to interviews of involved officers, to report writing, to use of taser and hand strikes, de-escalation, the review of critical incidents by the Use of Force Review Board, and the communication between the police department, the city, and the surviving family members after a fatal incident. So there's a lot of recommendations there that span a lot of topics. So rather than go through all of them, I think I'm just going to kind of touch on 13 through 18 specific to the Use of Force Review Board. And then I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you might have. So the Use of Force Review Board is assigned by me, and it's made up of a defensive tactics expert, a firearms expert, the commander of the patrol division, somebody who's expertly CIT trained, and a supervisor. And that is all chaired by the patrol commander. So they're appointed to review deadly use of force and given very specific guidelines on how to operate. They're going to determine findings of fact as to the circumstances surrounding that use of force. They're going to consider the reasonableness of the officer's action in accordance with policy and the law. And the primary goals are to examine the use of force incidents, to identify areas for improvement in training, improvement in our tactics, equipment, or policy changes that are going to better set us up in the future when we encounter these force events, and with an eye towards any reasonable alternatives to actions that we could take that could potentially, reduce the likelihood of these types of encounters. And so but I think what's important, what they're going to do is they're not going to examine just the use of force that resulted in, a deadly force incident, but they're going to evaluate all the events, the tactics, the decision-making of all the officers on the scene, and all the different types and levels of force that were used that led up to that incident, to do a complete thorough evaluation of everything, not just, that one incident that resulted in the use of deadly force potentially. So what I just described there is encompassed in like 4 or 5 of the different recommendations there specific to the use of force. But I just want to kind of touch on that because, well, they're all equally important. I think the value of this use of force board is significant because it's a departure from what's historically been done, just evaluating, was the use of force, the deadly force justified or not. It's going to provide a much deeper, broader look into everything that the officers on that scene did that led up to that, with an eye towards how can we always evaluate these situations to learn to do things better in the future. So those are the ones I wanted to touch on, but I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have on any of them.
Any questions from the committee?
I've muted. Am I muted?
No, you're not muted.
Oh, okay. This is sort of above my pay grade, and I'm impressed that pretty much agree with everything or in part, and then in part, I think it looks like even a more thorough vetting of the issue. But I'm curious about, I don't know about blows to the head. Are they concerned with using a fist or an instrument, or what's typical, I guess?
Well, we use force, and have to evaluate the use of force. Is it reasonable under the totality of the circumstances? Every situation is a little bit different. And so while I don't support eliminating the use of a closed fist blow, because there may be situations where that's appropriate and it's necessary to, prevent a higher use of force or something bad from happening. So I hesitate to eliminate that as a force option, but we're always going to be evaluating what happened to determine, is there some other way we could have done it, or a different way we could have trained people? So, you can use open palm heel strikes, and they're just different techniques that you can potentially use. But I couldn't support the idea of just prohibiting a closed fist blow, because in certain circumstances that might be appropriate. That said, there may be circumstances where a close fist blow is not appropriate, and that's something we would evaluate also. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It
Okay.
pinpoints it a lot for me. So now, do you implement these things? It says you agree. Is that sort of a roadmap forward for the department?
Yeah, a lot of these have already been implemented through policy change. So when we say agree, I mean, several of these, I don't have the number in front of it, but a lot of them are very specific to policy changes that we have already made and implemented. And several of them are related to training that we've already started training. Several of them lay out a roadmap of what's expected in the future as far as like our use of force reporting. There'll be a yearly use of force report, and it clearly outlines what's expected in that. That's something we're doing as well. It's in policy. So there are, I think, just about every single one of these we've accepted and implemented and made policy changes to make sure we meet the recommendations.
That's good news. How's the rank and file adapting to it?
I think fine. I think they understand. I mean, we always want to improve. We want to be a learning organization. I think we need to be the type of organization that looks at every single thing that we do with an eye of how could we have done this differently and better. We may run into some circumstances where we think we did this really well, and maybe there isn't a lot we would do different, but I think that culturally within the organization, we will debrief everything from the vehicle pursuit to some kind of use of force event to a deadly force event. And no matter what we do, we need to be looking at it with an eye for improvement. And it's not an eye for a gotcha, but also with that, if somebody seriously departs policy or even law, there's a level of accountability that's going to be met there. So it's a combination of holding people accountable for following the rules, but also creating an environment where we can also learn and improve and do better and be transparent with our debriefs without fear that every single thing that I do might get me in trouble. And it's trying to strike that balance.
That's great. And I loved hearing that you're becoming a training organization. And that's something I've been an advocate for. As long as you're doing that, it's going to be smooth sailing. Excellent.
My question was similar, or not similar, but following that is how often then do you do training? Because it feels like since I've been on SPAC, there's a lot of different policies. And so I'm trying to think how you continue to stay up and implement all of that. Does training happen on obviously a consistent basis, but how is that done?
That's a great question. And so there is a significant amount of training that's required by all police officers in the state on a yearly basis, just to maintain the basic standards, your first aid, your CPR and all that kind of stuff. And then you have, firearms qualifications and all the different qualifications and driver training and all that kind of stuff. And then, we need to train people whenever we change a policy, because we can't just change a policy and tell them to read it and know it. We have to train them on how to do that. And something that is challenging for this organization in particular right now, and something I'm taking steps to change, is coming up with a strategic yearly training plan versus just this kind of shotgun approach where we're just throwing stuff at them all the time and trying to fix things. And I want to get to a point where we have a well-developed yearly training plan where we're planning out, 12 months in advance what we want to accomplish. I'm in the process right now of doing a sergeant's promotion. So once we get our sergeant spots filled, I'm moving one of our sergeants into the professional standards office. And a big part of their job is to basically be that training sergeant, training coordinator, and map that out for the year ahead. So I want to develop a more strategic and a more definitive training plan as we move forward. And so to answer your question, it's not perfect, and it's a challenge with staffing issues, and a lot of it is remote. There's a lot of videos people watch, and those are valuable sometimes, but it's not the same as getting everybody together in a room and having some real, in-depth conversations in person. So we want to find the right combination of both of those.
Okay.
Excellent. I got some follow-up. Having that yearly plan in place is so important and we do that every December, because there was a time where we were doing so much scattered training. We had a lot of training fatigue start taking down our therapists and counselors. And when we set a yearly training schedule and looked at the needs, it just worked beautifully. I am old enough that I still read the newspaper every day. And I read an article about I'm sure you're waiting for this one, where we train all our cadets for 3-4 months, that there's never really a process to do follow-up training with their initial training, or is the force together? Did you read that or see that?
No, which I didn't see that one, which,
Yeah, it was in the Register Guard, and it was a report out of our training center that we send people to, and they just finished a
oh, yeah. Yeah,
2-year
yeah, I would.
review.
Yeah, so there's the basic police academy that every officer in the state has to attend. And it's, I can't remember, it's 3 months or 4 months. It's significant. So they go to the basic academy, everybody gets the same basic level of training, and then they go back to their respective agencies. Well, I think one of the things that got brought up in that article is there isn't I don't want to say a refresher training or a follow-up training
Yeah.
at the state level. They basically just leave it up to all the respective agencies to continue to train their people as they best see fit. So yeah, I did see that.
Other questions? Very good. Chief, anything else from you that you wanted to share with us tonight?
Just that draft document that we sent you of the recommendations, we are going to be posting that on our website here probably within the next week or so. So that will be available for everybody to see when they click on our website, along with the OIR report and several other audits and assessments. There's a tab on there. Just in the name of transparency, we're just putting all of this stuff on the website for people to review.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, want to move on to business from our committee. You were sent an updated SPAC bylaws, and I believe I know I signed it, and I'm sure I've got it turned in. I was supposed to sign it as chair, but wanted to make sure you've had a chance to look it over and just see our bylaws for this committee. And any questions or discussion about that from the committee? So I was going to bring up something then just for a discussion, and just see where the desire of the committee is. For example, under meetings, we're required to meet no less than quarterly. And I think when I first came on, that's about where we were. And then there was a lot of things going on, and we moved to monthly. And I'm just wondering out loud with you, is it worth considering maybe an every other month, unless things become where there is more business for us to manage and take care of, and then go back potentially to either adding a meeting or going to a monthly meeting? We've had a few meetings that have been shorter, which is fine. And sometimes I just wonder about, would we be more efficient to have a meeting every other month? But I'm really value the input of the committee on this, and would like a sense of how you feel about that. Jan.
Thank you. I think kind of read my mind. I think that we've done some great work in the last year, and making sure that we created an opportunity and space for our community to share input and feedback. And I think that the opportunity that Michael and I and Brittany will have tomorrow to sort of put a bow on some of that work in an annual report, now is a great time to start moving back to a little bit more. So I am definitely supportive of an every other month, and then sort of evaluate as needed accordingly.
Very good. Thank you. Terry, Michael? Yes.
Yeah, I'm eventually we need to do that. I understand why we've been meeting monthly, and it's been good, and certainly for the optics. And I think after our review tomorrow, and the subcommittee it's reviewing the last 12 months and preparing the report, might help us transition to every other month and get a good handle. I know the last couple of meetings were lickety split. So, I'm overwhelmed with a lot of other things. And so if they're going to be lickety split, then every 2 months made sense for me.
I would
Very-
also agree with the 2 month, with the every other month, that
Okay.
I know that's how we did it when I first joined this group. And it worked until we really needed to be meeting every month. So we can always revamp and go forward with every month if needed. So
Yeah, that's, I can affirm that if we feel like there's more business for us to address, or there is some community concern, we can
Yeah.
easily go back to that area.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. I apologize. I think I may have seen a message pop up in the chat from Chief Shearer, but was just interested to hear what his thoughts were on going to a bi-monthly frequent or every other month frequency, if that was still going to meet the workload needs of the department.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. If we, for some reason, get significant topics that need significant attention on a shorter timeline than that, I'd like the flexibility to be able to pull this group together, maybe present to them versus waiting 2 months to do that, if you're open to that. But I think short of some, overwhelming need to really get something to you in a timely fashion, I think every other month is just fine.
That's great. Thank you. I would support moving to that then as well.
Very good. So we have a consensus on that, and then knowing that we're available. So my question would be then, would we, you have a meeting tomorrow, right? A work session. Do you want us to have a follow-up right away from that? Or would you prefer we meet in January and then start every other month as needed?
Yeah,
Do I
I
hear you
think,
saying?
I think we have to finish our work session and then we all, we present it to
Yeah.
all of us, and then we agree, and then we have to meet with the city council, and then that's a great time to segue into, in my opinion, every other month. And I think personally that, the chief has been doing an excellent job, and I feel confident in his leadership and what he's done. And I just want to say that publicly because I really believe that. And it's just tremendous. It's wonderful. So thank you for that. And I also want to say that, Terry, I've been trying to watch your TV off the glass. I don't know if you know it, but we're seeing your multitasking.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Okay. Any more discussion about that? So there is a work session being planned tomorrow, and then we will meet the first Thursday in January for our next committee meeting. There is an upcoming SPAC City Council meeting. I have it on my calendar, but I do not have it in my head. I think it's February 22nd. Jessica, am I correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And the time?
I believe it is 6 p.m.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know I have it on my calendar. I just don't have that in front of me. I did have a Zoom meeting Monday with the mayor to talk about this meeting. And first of all, he would love for the whole committee to come, or certainly at least know they're all more than welcome to come. And so I wanted to make sure that I extended that invitation to the entire committee. And he is hoping it will be in person. Obviously, we'll get more information as it gets closer. Eric, your hand's still up, so I just want to make sure, do you have something else to add?
Oh, yeah, thanks. I just wanted to ask, as far as the bylaws, do we need to take any formal action on that, or was that just a consensus review?
I think it's a consensus review. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yes, to be honest, the bylaws were something that we agreed to about a year ago. They just had gone to council for just approval, and that had happened, and we were waiting for that to come back, and it finally did come back, and we were just kind of closing the loop on that. Good question.
Thank you. Great question, Eric. Thank you. So back to February 22nd, 6 p.m., hopefully an in-person meeting with the city council. They would love to, as many of us to be there as possible. There's several things it sounds like they'd like to accomplish. They're meeting with many of the different committees and just trying to reestablish the relationship between the committees that are working and the city council. The report that you all are working on is going to be certainly a big part of that. They'd love to have a report on what we've done this last year. They would be interested in what we're wanting to work on in the following year. Do we have any direction that we want from the city council? And so some just conversation. Is there direction or questions that we have for the city council, or is there some direction we want from them or questions we have? And so a bit of here's what we've done, here's what we hope that we could accomplish. Part of that is going to be in our review itself, where we've committed to evaluating policies on a regular basis. And so that's certainly going to be ongoing in the new year. But as much as anything, an open dialogue with, that's why I'd love to have as many of our team there as possible. So questions about that or any thoughts?
Wouldn't miss it. They're a great bunch of people.
Perfect, thank you. So again, I'll just ask as much as possible if you can make it. I would appreciate that. I know we all have got plenty of meetings and plenty of things going on, but it'd be nice to have a good group from the SPAC, and we have such a sharp committee that it'd be great to have input from others there.
You know, Barry, I would like some RSVP because I don't want to show up and be the only guy standing there.
I'm going to be there, and I hear you. Maybe we can do that through an email, and I think we have appointed some new members, but I don't think they officially start until Jessica, your hand is up.
Who are they?
You are, I can wait my turn. I just wanted to let you know that I have had several RSVPs, and I just didn't want to interrupt. You're on a roll. A majority of
That's gonna be
everyone,
dangerous.
a majority of everyone has responded in the affirmative, and I will make sure to follow up on anyone I haven't received a response from. So we're looking pretty good in the attendance on February 22nd.
Very good, thank you. Remind me, Jessica, again, when our new committee members are officially appointed and join our committee.
Yes, they go before council for appointment on next Monday, December 6th. And then they would be available to attend our first meeting. After that would be that first week of January. And in the time, I'll make sure to reach out to them, kind of do the welcome to the committee packet, invite them to, if they have the opportunity to come in and meet us and kind of have a discussion beforehand. I think we've tried to do that with everybody who is available, and that will be the plan. Hopefully they'll be there in January.
Perfect, thank you so much. Okay. Any other questions about the joint meeting between SPAC and City Council, or any other comments? Yes, Terry.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else was on the interview process for the city council for our new members, but we had some really spectacular people applied for our 3 open positions. We had 8 people, and all of them were very, very good. So I was impressed.
Very good. Okay. Any other business from the committee, or any information or questions that they wanted to ask or share for our meeting tonight? Michael.
Yeah, I would. Oh, well, actually I can wait till the subcommittee meeting tomorrow. So.
Isn't there 3 of you meeting tomorrow with Jessica? So 4? Yeah, perfect. Will any thought be given on things we want to work on in the next year at that meeting tomorrow?
No, I'm not sure.
Just- Just a review.
Well,
I
Send you the minutes from the meeting and see where it goes.
Okay, okay, very good. Any other business or items to share? All right, then it is 6:36 and we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.